G'day, Doggies fans. All Things Bulldogs, episode 39. We're still going into the pre-season, or the off-season, I should say. And welcome to anyone who's jumping on. Welcome to you, Gas. How you going, buddy?
Very good, mate. How you going?
Very, 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 very well. Already 6 people waiting. That's awesome. Hello to everyone. Come say hello. Have a type in the chat. I can hear myself coming through your thing there, Gas. Welcome, Phil. How are you, mate?
G'day,
I
Phil.
think my volume's coming through you. Oh, you just turned it off.
Check now. You should be all right.
Oh, g'day, Tiger Lala. How are you? Hopefully you're a Bulldog supporter. And Joby.
Hey, Joby.
Couple of newbies on. When we get to about 20 people, we'll start smashing it out. But we're going to talk a fair bit about the Bulldogs for 2026, latest rumours going around, where we think the Dogs can improve, which will continue to evolve. We'll also talk a little bit about Preston Mania, which may not be happening in England this weekend, which, it's a big risk not putting Jacob Preston in your team, I can tell you that much. New South Wales missed out, and who knows what them English might do. We're both well, Phil. G'day, Shreg. Welcome.
Hey,
Good to see you. Waiting on a few people. Messaged a bunch of blokes. So how many days we got to go until Vegas?
I'll be sending it out shortly. It'll be 130 days left.
Well, that's 25 days since you started the countdown.
Yep.
How quick has that gone?
Yeah, so 131 now. So it's gone fast. It's basically, we still every time we look at it, we know how long since we last played, but it's all right. It's counting down fast. Soon we'll be into the double digits and then the single digits. So it'll come around fast. But it's been fun chasing stats and everything on that site. So on all that information and everything. So it's been some good ones out there. Some different stats.
I'm unlikely going to look. We're thinking of starting a GoFundMe for anyone who wants to pay for us to go to Vegas. But that would be a little bit cheeky. But we'd love to. It's just been a big 2025 and 2026 is coming too quick. Vegas is just coming too quickly for me at the moment. So probably not. It might even sell out this year because of Dog supporters. We're the number one ticket holders already, from what I've heard.
Yes.
Welcome, Lucas. And guys, if you've come here for the first time, please like and subscribe. I'm not going to apologise for it, but it really helps. It really does. And the community's still strong with All Things Bulldogs, and the new website's taken off, getting lots of people going to it, spending a couple of minutes there, having a look around, getting some good feedback, which is good. Had a few issues with the site, but it's a trust, safe, and secure site. You got to pay for all that stuff. I didn't realise, but you do. So you want them to say that it's safe, you've got to pay them.
It's looking really good, mate.
Thank you, mate. It's going to look better when you're finished with it. We might have to align that blue and white brick wall into it a bit more.
Yeah, no worries.
If anyone's got any questions they want to ask on the chat, feel free to put it through. It'll only cost you a super chat. Only joking, guys. Only joking.
G'day, Lucas.
Get to all your comments, whether you pay for them or not here. But if we've answered, so just so you know, for your own, if you come on late to the podcast at any time, like in the future or whatever, so you come in a bit later, we may have already answered or discussed what you've put on your comment. So always, go filter back and have a look. And if we don't answer it, we'll let you know we've already sort of answered that, because I think quite a few times I just answer things over and over again, which is quite funny. But sometimes I forget that I've answered it too. And that's all right.
In the zone, mate. You're in the zone.
Feels fresh. And here's the champion. Yeah, I know. Heard that after I've been flat out today, so I started writing out my spiel without checking. It's Team Tuesday today, so.
Yes. G'day, Aki. Thanks for the
Aki,
info,
you need
mate.
to go and, I don't know, sell some chocolates or something so we can go to Vegas. Me and your dad. No. I'm sure you'd get on the plane before I would, but
if we go, we'll call the game from over there. We'll do a few live features for the All Things Bulldogs podcast. Don't worry if we end up going.
Yeah, I'll definitely do it from there. It's just 2 more people, and we will get into it. G'day, Zayad. Welcome to you. Like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Make sure you like it.
Hey, Zayad.
And you can see the comments all good there, Gas?
Loud and clear, mate.
Loud and clear. All right. Bit of dead space, but that's all right, guys. Let's get into it. Let's start. Let's get fired up. So what we're going to do is refer to some of the media that's gone out from, and more so our own media. We don't really need the Fox Sports headlines and whatever else. So the first thing we want to talk about is the players that have got to improve for next year if we're going to, take that next step. Well, it's more so everyone obviously needs to improve and everyone needs to play well, and we saw Max King and players like Kurt Mann go to new levels this year for the majority of it. So we need to see that happen with some other players as well. I felt Montoya played really well this year, probably his best season as a Bulldog. I felt that Anari Tuala was pretty strong when he come in. Jethro did a good job when he come in. Lots of players did a good job, but these are the players that are in sort of key positions that will need to go. Well, I've left Connor Tracy out of this one. We might discuss that article again as well. We talked a little bit about it last week, but the article come out on Zero Tackle, and there was a lot of different feedback that come out from it. But let's get into it. What did you think there, Gas, about the 5 players that we named? So we've started with
Bailey Haywood.
Let's share the screen.
Yeah, I thought it was very good, mate. I think you hit the nail on the head there with the 5 players you identified. Bailey will be a big key for us because obviously you need to have a very, very important 9 in your team to try to have some success and to get an advantage. I mean, you saw the teams that were doing well last year in the back end of the season had a good solid 9. I know Brisbane had some depth in theirs, even though they lost Walters, but Harry Grant, even for the Sharks as well.
Brayley.
Brayley, all very good players. So, for us, it will be a sort of a loss to miss on an experienced player like Reid, but for what we're building in the future and for the savings that we've got for now on the cap for Bailey, I think he can be something special moving forward. So those key points that you've identified are important as well. So, obviously that passing game off the deck and the ability to start to run the ball. We know he can run the ball, but I still think Serraldo sometimes doesn't always want his hookers to run. I mean, if you noticed that Reid wasn't always probably encouraged to run, I don't think that was something that was maybe in his game. It might have been kind of like when Burton doesn't kick this the spiral bombs. Sometimes could be something coached into them potentially, just for the strength of the team. But I think for us to evolve and have a bit more opportunities in attack, we're going to need potentially an option with a running half, so we can have a bit of variation in the way that we attack. So that's going to be important for us. So how we develops that and then has that combination with Berto and with Galvin will be very important for us. Who to get the ball to and when. That'll be very important. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I think the main part of it is, buddy, is that a lot of these players are going to have a huge effect on the other. And that's sort of why I've picked the 5 players that I have, Jamon Salmon was one that I wasn't going to put there, but I thought I would because I knew it would obviously get a lot of debate happening because you get the people who say he shouldn't be there. And that just gives me the opportunity to say, if you're in Sydney and you go to a sign-on and you get to have a quick chat with the players when you go and get a photo or whatever, ask them, why is Jamon Salmon in the 17? What's he bring that other players don't? And they might teach you something. They might be able to sum it up in about 20 seconds, And remember, you don't have much more time than that when you chat to someone. But if you don't frame it like a fool, you're probably going to get a genuine answer. And that's what I mean. Like the way people talk about our players, and I don't want to make it continually go on about this, but I will forever, I guess, is just think about what the players in the team think of these guys and think about how you would sound if you were forced to actually say that to their face. Anyway, so the point I want to make about Bailey Haywood to start, you mentioned, Gas, importantly about players like Brayley and some of these other hookers. And Brayley, there's a stat for him that when he runs the ball more than 60 metres, the Sharks win. And he's another one which, look, it's funny because it makes it sound like they pick and choose when to run, which they obviously do, but it is, you're 100% right. It is coached is part of their disciplines that they get the ball to the people that want it. And especially if they're sort of working on a 2 or 3 set strategy, for example, to get play to where they want it to be and win that. And I think Canterbury's very much like that. It's like we play the ball where we want to go. And then in certain games, depending what's going on, whether they pull the trigger real early or if they pull the trigger a bit later and torture the team that they're playing with a little bit longer. There's so many variables to it. But with Brayley, like he was a good hooker coming through as a kid. His brother obviously went to Newcastle, has now gone to the Raiders, was also very, very good. So he had to wait for him to leave. And they felt that the younger brother was always going to be the most talented. And he's got his, he's in the Australian squad, so he's done very, very well. But his progression has been over like 5 or 6 years to get to that point. And that's for Canterbury, there's a lot of pressure on Bailey Haywood. And I suppose when people do criticise a little bit, they're sort of criticising the coach and the club a bit because this guy's, so they see him as someone who's been manufactured into a 9, and he's still only very, very young. He's still very raw, and he's going to take time. And a lot of the fans sort of don't want to take much more time. So I can see where they're coming from when they, with the stuff they've said a lot of the time, as frustrating as it is, when you just want people just to get on board. But the major point for me is that I think Bailey Haywood's a very special player, and we probably shouldn't put too much more pressure on him, but they wouldn't do this to a young guy to put him into this position if they didn't think that this kid is something absolutely out of the box. Like, I'm 100% sure of that. And these type of people, Phil Gould and Serrato and and all these players we've got in the club, coaches and managers and stuff, they've been around. They've seen some of the best talent come and go. And I think if they think this guy's going to go out there and do the job, we need to just get on board and go on the journey with this kid, because I think the potential's untapped. I think it's built more on communication and more than hard work. I think he gets at this. I think Bailey understands the game. And I go back to that run against the Roosters when we were behind. We had not seen him do anything like that in NRL, and he produced that when he needed to. And, yeah, we worked those forwards over a bit. Yeah, he took advantage of a couple of tired players, but that was an absolute phenomenal run, and that was something that showed me he's got a lot of ability to see and read the play, and his delivery is quite good. And I felt that off the deck he's just going to get better and better and better and better and better. And what I think he does better than Reid Marnie is he actually, when he picks the ball up, I feel he brings people onto the ball a little bit better when he actually when he sort of comes out of dummy half a little bit, whereas Reid's obviously, top 2 in the comp for off the deck, which is what a coach, as you said, Gas, what a coach like Serrato wants is to be able to, get that ball on the advantage line to the right people running onto it and creating space out wide and playing the footy that he's sort of coaching them to play. It doesn't always lend itself to take a run through dummy half here. It's almost a little bit like rugby union when you see a lot of rugby league players who go there, like they'll take this big run when the team's sort of set to do things. They'll see a gap and play what's in front of them, and they'll be left stranded and isolated, and they'll give up possession. It's a little bit like that. For some of I know Des Hasler doesn't like, he got rid of Ennis, and Michael Leisha, who was a running hooker, wasn't allowed to run the ball, which sort of impacted his development. So coaches can have a huge part to play in that. What's your thoughts on Leo Thompson, Gas?
I think he'll be very good for us. I think having him in Serraldo's structured defence will help him. And then I think that'll, with everyone doing the hard work together, it'll give him a lot more ability to enforce himself in attack, and play his game. Where I feel like maybe where he's come from, he's had to, carry the load a lot on both sides, and that might have impacted his attack. So hopefully with this system that we've got, where everyone works for each other, and obviously depending on the minutes he gets himself to play, he can start having a lot more impact and working in tandem with Max and others to start getting us on the front foot, which is what our halves are really beckoning for, especially Galvin, to have that front foot footy that we're looking for.
Yeah. Really good point there. And this will sort of link into a discussion about Sam Hughes later on. But I think our front row rotation, having King and Thompson there, like you get one of them could get injured, but just having that extra depth is going to be so important. And what I hope to see is that the big fellas that we've got in reserves really get long minutes in order to prepare them for when they've got to come in and do a job. But Leo, I think that point about Lachlan Galvin is that front foot footy. He would definitely benefit from that, as all halves do, especially the bigger bodies, where they can, if we can just front ball a bit more easily, that's going to help us with the footy. Makes us less sort of dependent on Burton's long kicking game, and allows us to have more competition with our kicking game. And the more we can march upfield, without having to, as they say, sort of play heaps of footy to get up there. If you can, get your forwards just getting that momentum and then do a couple of shifts and make some good ground and ask some questions, and then you're taking your kicks from there 40 or just over, what allows you to do is really play the game where you want to play it and really turn those screws. And that's exactly what the good sides have been so good at doing, is just having that ability where we sort of sometimes, if we've had to do a lot of defensive work and it just means that we're completely relying on our back three all the time. And if the opposition team sort of putting dents in us as a result of that lost energy, then it just makes us harder for us to do anything in attack. I think more for us, it's not so much having those bigger bodies in the ruck that can play long minutes. What that enables you to do is you don't give away as many penalties, because big blokes tend to be much better in the wrestle. And it just makes it harder for the opposition big fellas to knock the door down. And whilst we're the best team in reducing meters from where an opposition player caught the ball to where they kicked the ball off their fifth tackle, we were still number one for that over the season, right? Because of it just takes so much energy the way that we defend, and that can, I think, over a season, that can really zap it out of you. And I think they did a pretty good job last year. We might have lost a few games at the end, but we had a lot of injuries, and I felt, we were getting criticised when they lost to the Broncos and then lost to the Panthers by 2 points. We lost to who ended up being, the prelim finalists and the grand final winner by a few points. And then we had it sort of up and down from then on. I don't think the end of the season was as bad as what people make out compared to what we were up against. So for us to go to a new level, Leo Thompson obviously needs to come in, find his feet in the defensive system, and make sure that him and King are in a genuine battle for who's the big dog sort of thing. And obviously you want Leo to come and prove himself in that point. So that's what I expect to see. I expect to see people like Max King just in awe of him. And vice versa. I want to see great respect there. And Leo can throw offloads and stuff. That's what I mean. Like, if they can sort of interchange who's doing the big man stuff and balance those minutes over the year, and if those two guys are averaging 50 minutes each per game, that's a big game changer for what we can play on our bench as well. This is what another thing people sort of neglect to think, is that when you've got that guy who's struggling to play only 20 or 30 minutes as your starting prop alongside King, it just makes your rotations have to be more mobile and more sort of, we've had to carry those players that can get through the work. If you've got this two big guys that can both play 25-minute stints each, that enables you then to carry like a Saluka Fafita on the bench or someone like that, or someone with a little bit more oomph to come on, rather than having that. And plus, they just take the energy out of that team as well. So when the Tilly and Harry Hayes come on, for example, they're already running downhill because they've got two big boys who have done a good job to start off. And this is where we're going to get closer to the big sides by having that. It doesn't matter how big he is. It's whether he can play long minutes. That's the main thing. Under the Serrato system, if they can't play the long minutes, their purpose is basically just to play 20 minutes and that's it. So there you go.
might want to catch up on a few chats because some of them are in line with what you've been talking about. So it's a good time at the moment.
Oh, Timmy's on.
Yeah. G'day, Timmy. We'll come back to that one. Just finish off on the next couple. We'll come back to that logo one. So Timmy went back and reviewed the Manly and Warriors games we won, and he did notice the amount of times both sides struggled to get out of their 30 most sets, which is what you were just referring to there. And I think if you go to the next one with Joby. So Leo will make a big difference. Can't wait to see him play for us. So it is good times. I think one other thing that you would have noticed this year, and like you said, we had the suspensions, the injuries, the origins. It was a very, very long season, and your depth really, really got tested. And I think for us this year, I think Serraldo will try to spread the load a bit across the season. He won't, if you notice, most teams, you don't just pick your best team every week. When you can, you've got other players coming in and out. You want to rest up your players through the season, and I think we can learn from that and be better at that. I think so we can peak at the right time of year and have our best team hopefully on the field and have everyone fresh and ready to go when it matters. Obviously, you're going to build the wins up as you go. So this year, the way that the draw panned out, it was in our favour. We had a great start, and then, like you said, we started copying a few injuries. We had an unprecedented origin selection on top of the fact that we had 18th men again, 2 out of 3 games. It was more than usual. But having a Leo there who won't be playing origin because he's a Kiwi and potentially king after what he did last year, I still think deserves to be there again next year. So, that's going to be good for him. But the fringe players and those players like Sam Hughes and the Fafitas, the Hopwood, all those guys around them, they're going to be very important for us to keep the wheels turning through that sort of middle part of the season. So, the start, it'll be that sort of start where we have everyone, whoever's available. The middle period will be where everyone sort of comes and goes in and out of the team. And then hopefully you want to finish with your best team towards the end, leading into the business end and where you can start to make some impressions there.
Yep. Well said, buddy. This will lead us this next comment. Welcome, ARW. Thanks for joining and thanks for your contribution. Galvin needs to put on 20 kilo of bulk and become a ball playing 13 if the Dogs are to be any chance. All right, well, let's get stuck into this one. Lachlan Galvin is, look, he's 6'2". He's about 10 to 12 kilos underweight. So they'll be hoping to get him to about 96 to 98 kilos, not to 108 kilos. I don't think that's in his future. Not in NRL anyway, I think. But based on what I've heard, he would definitely be about a 96 to 98 kilogram player, potentially to 100, 102. Would make him sort of definitely a 13. Over about 96 kilos, I think you're getting too big for the back line. So if he gets to about 96, 98, he probably has to move into that sort of 13 role. But that just depends as well. Like, who's to say? But yeah, his body physique is still of a boy at the moment. And that's why I was impressed, because he was putting his shoulder and he was just getting bumped off a few times. He was having a crack. And as the season went on, he actually got better and better and better, which is what people forget to talk about. I think Leo Thompson, as we talked about, and having that extra big body that can generate a little bit of ruck momentum, can also take a little bit more energy out of the opposition when he runs the ball and also when he's defending. This all adds up, and that's going to help Lachlan Galvin. I think the sprint training he's doing for his acceleration is good. There's a lot of criticism about the kid, but still, I saw him run away and score 2 or 3 tries backing up. The kid's there. He's there and about. He's around the ball. Things happen when he's there. and I've seen him at West offloading in the line. The kid doesn't shirk the task, and while I think you're definitely right, he needs to build that speed, that size a little bit, but I think it's going to happen in stages. And I also think you're right about we need a dynamic 13 in time. Now, I've heard people suggest Jack Todd's that. Well, Jack's got to learn how to. I don't know if Jack's going to be a prop or play that 13 role. Like, we've got to see how he progresses and if he can not get injuries. He's had really poor luck with the arm fractures, and that's cut away from his fitness because it hasn't allowed him to get that game time. And we saw when they brought him in, he lasted like 5 minutes and had to go off later in the season when he made his return. And then he didn't come back. So hopefully next year we'll see him get some minutes under his belt. He could be someone which sort of trims up and plays at about 104, 105. And he's got that really good footwork and he's got the ability to land on his front. Generate quick play the balls. He's quite classy. He knows how to score a try. He knows he makes breaks, which is always good for someone in that position. We've got quite a bit of talent there, is what I'm saying. And how the pieces end up falling is still a huge mystery. For me, Lachlan Galvin is the best option at 7 right now, because of what I saw him attempt to do. And I haven't seen that too much from Bulldog 7s in a long, long time, where he's just been all over the ball, not gone missing at all. Yeah, he might not have made the difference that we wanted, but the kid's there to play football, and I think he's going to do really, really well. Oh, here we go. I need to turn these people down.
Yeah, so
what's your thoughts on Galvin?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you look at, I'm not comparing him to Thurston, but if you look at a Thurston, for example, defensively, everyone can say in a lot of areas he put himself on the line, but he was a speed bump a lot of times, but he will still go down as an immortal. So people overlook that eventually. So I'm not saying that Galvin is going to be a speed bump, but he puts his body on the line. He's a bigger body than Thurston, but he will overcome that. And, having an off season under his belt, he'll be a better defensive player. As he bulks himself up and gets himself in front of the players, he's going to naturally become a better defender. His ball playing ability will continue to improve in our team with everything that he's learning. So, for him, it's basically how much he wants to put in for him to how much he's going to get out. The ability is there. It's about how much effort and how badly he wants it. The fact that everyone's, from what I can see now, you look at players, they're all over the world. Marnie, I think, and I know he's moving on, but him and Curran were over in Rio or wherever. Everyone's the boys are in Lebanon, Karaz and that, but he's Galvin still here doing sprint training straight away, moving on, which is no one can say a bad thing about that, really. He's here putting in the hard yards, getting himself ready for next year, playing catch up already. So it's how bad he wants it. If he wants it, the coach is giving him that opportunity and he wants to grab it. Every one of us should jump behind him and push him along, because he'll be the difference for us.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I alluded to in the article is his strengthening his combination with Matt Burton. That was completely overlooked in the run home as well, is that Burton had to play centre for majority of the last few games, and he was carrying injuries all year as it was. Like, he got himself to the finals, and Birdo was ripping and tearing, ready to go. Great. He tore his AC joint just before the final game, which made him a passenger. But in the lead up, him and Galvin were going to do some great things, and some great highlights for Matt Burton throughout the year. Like, I honestly think this Birdo's very close look, if we want to be a genuine top four side, so finish in the top four again and compete, Matt Burton needs to be basically. They need to be saying, do we pick if Cleary and Moses and Burton and Luai are all fit? They need to be sitting there saying, people need to be saying Matt Burton needs to be picked because his form warrants it. We sort of need that. But for that to happen as well, it's going to, him and Galvin are going to have to combine well. He's going to have to get a lot of early ball himself. There's going to have that variation there. Galvin and whoever else comes in at half, whether it be Woods or O'Sullivan, if he gets a couple of games, they need to be, taking ownership of that kicking game as well. And, going back to all these games, that young fellow, Lachlan Galvin, he got a lot of repeat sets. There were lots of good things in that game. And the likes of Braithen Astor and that can carry on as much as they want, that he wasn't a 7. As you said, Gas, neither was Thurston, neither was Cooper Cront, neither was a whole heap of people. But guess what? They're probably, Cront will probably be an immortal. There's many that suggest that he should be. There's many suggest that he was better. He was more elite than some of the other players. And I like the thing that the rugby league coach said about Cooper Cronk is that the fact you didn't know he was always there was a really good sign for a 7. But I could have said that about Toby Sexton this year at different points too. But the difference is that Cronk was always involved in getting the team around the park. And Toby did that well on some occasions, but not enough. But I reckon he'll kill it in France. And the last player that we're going to talk about as needing to really step up, this is a tough one because Jamon Salmon, what do you think he brings to the side, Gas?
I think it's his energy that he has more in defence and more in organisation that he does very well. It's his effort areas that go unnoticed as well. It's always been that first thing people always look at is, especially people who play fantasy and all that other stuff and looking at stats and looking at hit-ups and tackles and that's not what Salmon's job has been for us. It's what he does around that. It's the decoys he runs. It's the organisation. It's all of these defensive efforts that he puts in constantly. That's where he's most valued. And the team, like you said, value that as well. And I think you touched on it in your article. When he got injured in that Canberra game and we lost him for a few weeks, there was a noticeable difference not having him in the team. People might not want to admit that or might not have even considered it. But if you look back through those games, we did have a sort of a scratchy period in that time. That's a factor there as well. So because his role in the team, it's hard to just fill in someone and just say, bang, do what he was doing. It takes a certain player. So, he's an integral part of what we're doing, especially when you consider that he's on almost a minimum wage, almost like he's on a lower wage. So he's not taking up a lot of the cap. He does his job. It's like you said before, he may be costing us an extra couple of interchanges with the way that he interchanges with man. So yes, a long-term 13 would be preferable for the Bulldogs. Especially like you've mentioned in a few of the previous podcasts and articles, having that Isaiah type player or whatever it might be, that's the future for us. That's where we'll be really in the elite top teams. But for now, what he does, what he brings is good enough for us to keep us moving and keep us progressing in where we want to go.
Yeah. So without Salmon when he left after the Raiders, we had I think two buys in that time, and we won 3 and lost 3. or won 3 and lost 4. He came back early he was supposed to be out for like 8 to 10 weeks. He came back out about 7 weeks. So he was out 8 weeks, sorry. And he came back against the Cowboys. Now, on his return, it probably wasn't until the Warriors game where he actually got to where he was before he got injured. As far as the stuff I'm watching, there was a noticeable drop in his support play. His passing was a little bit off. He was getting bumped off a little bit more in tackles. He wasn't always doing the support stuff. He was definitely impacted. He was sort of out there as a leader and as a communicator, but he wasn't walking the talk as much as normal. But I think something definitely changed in the last few, whether he got a rev up from the coach or whatever it was. But there was definitely a reaction in the latter half of the season. And what you'll notice is that his minutes, to the detriment of a lot of fans who are like, oh, well, how come man isn't playing more minutes? Yada, yada, yada. I think in the last couple of games, Salmon might have played 55, 60 minutes in both matches. So for me, and he wasn't playing bad at all. So what did he play? He played 55 minutes against the Sharks. Against the Storm, he would have played long minutes, but that's probably, we lost Critter and stuff early. 52 minutes. And then against the Panthers, he probably played a fair bit as well. So he's sort of gone up from playing. He only played 46 in the final against the Panthers. Josh Curran only played 34 minutes, which was interesting. Kurt 34, Satili 34, Harry 46. Probably with Reed playing 30 as well to start. Change that up a little bit. But I guess the point I'm making is that we need a 13 who can play longer minutes. And Salmon, all those areas you're right about. And he's a player that tries to get the ball to players in a better position as well. So his main job is to always be there on the ball, getting lots of receipts, giving space to the halves to get the team into where it needs to be. And whoever plays that role, that's what their job is. As far as taking hit-ups, I suppose it would be an advantage is if you've got a long minute 13 who's a dynamic ball runner who can also create that space. But Jamon Salmon isn't that player. So the best thing for him to do is to give the ball to someone who's going to get us into the right position on the field. And when he doesn't do that, he's got to sum up when it's the right time to run and whatever else. But he plays his role. The team are aware of his role and he's valued in the team. That's all I can tell you. And he's a premiership winner. So there you go. But look, we've got young Fino Latu coming through. He's a real aggressive, energetic player that we're going to grow to love, I'm sure. Few highlights out there. But yeah, he's someone who wants to get his hands on the ball, wants to contribute. Just a real hardworking footballer. And, there's a lot of young guys in our club who may or may not be there anymore, who might get their nose out of joint when a Lachlan Galvin comes into the 30 or a Finu Latu comes into our top 30 straight away. But as they say, iron sharpens iron, and these kids are wanted by clubs for a reason. Like Newcastle were offering more money and a longer deal for this kid to go there, and he came to the Bulldogs for less and for a lesser term. So what's that show you? He was in demand, as was Lachlan Galvin, you know. I don't think he's 1.2 value, though. But these guys have got to step up. We've got a good squad. I see someone like O'Sullivan as a like for like when it comes to Drew Hutchison. And Drew was really good for those youngsters in New South Wales Cup. And when he didn't play, we had a lot more losses than when he was in the side. So that's probably his level at this stage of his career. But what I'm saying, and O'Sullivan's a little bit the same. But O'Sullivan will be like, I've got something to say about that, you know. And he might put pressure on these youngsters to get into the half spot, and that's what we want. Oh, look, I felt he did a good job at Penrith, but that's what I mean. If you've got a team that everyone's playing their roles correctly, and a player like O'Sullivan comes into the side and just has to kick long, kick short, get his ball to his outside man, play his role, make his tackles, he's a great, you know, he can contribute to winning big matches as he did for Penrith. I think most games he played in first grade, they actually won. So he's got a good relationship with the coach. He'll know Salmon, he'll know Matty Burton, you know, he'll know Critter. It just gives you that extra cohesion and understanding. And I think that's what it brings. And it's not always about having the elite star to have a top 30 under the cap. You've got to have that mixture. And I think Timmy's probably made the point there, Gas, is that bringing in Cade Dykes and Sean O'Sullivan does give us that depth. And with Cade Dykes being such a look, I've said it a few times, but he was almost going to be the prodigy out Sharks way, you know, like watching him in the juniors compete against some of our juniors, he was top notch, absolute top notch. And to get him is brilliant. Now, but we've got to see how he develops with his confidence after that injury and see how it goes. And Connor Tracy, I felt was in our top 2 players for the year, definitely our most consistent. And, you know, coming back from that injury was tough. And that's the things that the neckheads point out. They go, oh, he dropped the football or he got held up twice or he, you know, okay. So I'm sure he'll work on that part of his game. But he saved tries. He was always there. He led the average meters per hit up, and he was only 60 meters behind
Tedesco
over the 12 months for total meters. So he came second. You know, that's partly because of the work he's done as a defensive fullback as well. For us to have the best defense, our fullback needs to be marshalling the back line and you know, when defending on our own try line, they've got to be side to side, in the line, out of the line, communicating with all the players around them to get the defense right. He's got to have vision about where we attack and where we don't. You know, we didn't come last in attack. We came about 7th or 8th in attack and first in defense. Now, obviously, we want to keep improving, and we will. But he's a big reason for that. The problem is that when he got injured, Blake Taft was also injured. And our young fellas just aren't up to it yet. They're not ready yet, you know. So that's the problem there. So having Cade Dykes hopefully builds that depth up. But look, we're getting close to November 1. If Connor Tracy isn't signed, they could be making a play for a Ponga or a Bula, because Bula's still not extended. But I look at Jerome Bula and I go, there's another Stephen Crichton to me, except he's playing fullback right now. But does he do all the work stuff? How good is he defensively? Can he marshal the defense like a Connor Tracy? You know what I mean? I don't think he's at that level. As far as untapped talent, like he's right up there. Like when you're talking about Greg Inglis's and Selwyn Cobbo's and that when they were coming through, Jareen Bula's right in the conversation as potentially one of the future superstars of the NRL. There's no doubt about that. And if you got an opportunity to get him, you go and get him. And I think he just joined Moses as well, which would have angered the Tigers. So is it we might be looking at him. I'm not saying we are or whether we should or shouldn't. And it's the same with Ponga. If he's on the market and you can get him cheap, you're going to buy him. Okay? Because I think he's made a transition and, you know, I think it obviously comes with risks. And at 1.4 million, I'm out. But if I can get the same house with the same view for $500,000 less, I'm going to take it. You got anything to add on that, buddy? I went a bit long.
No, it's all right. It's all good there, mate. You know, Connor Tracy for me, like, was probably in our top 3 players, if not one of the top 2, like, for the season. So he was a big part of why we did so well for the whole year and had 15 wins. So very important player for us. So, but you always got to look to get better, don't you? So, you know, at the end of the day, a fullback won the grand final. So, you know, not the halves, not anything else. The fullback won the grand final. That's how I saw it. Without him in the last 3 games of the year, Reece Walsh, they don't win the grand final. So if you've got someone who can create that, absolutely, like you said, you would never say no to having, you know, what did Bula score 4 tries the other day? So we know he can play. Yes, he's a bigger body, but he can play. So if anyone's available and he's within our budget, we'll take him if it's there. Now we go through a few chats, mate. Catch up a bit.
Yep, we're up to Damo.
Yep, coming soon, mate. The draw. I don't know. I think AI this year. I think we were told AI is creating the draw, trying to make it maybe a bit fairer with all the different permutations and teams getting buys later in the year, earlier in the year, all sorts of things. So it'll be interesting to see. At least we know who we got round 1, but we'll move on from there and see what happens after that. A couple of games we know about, like the Rabbitohs, etc. But yeah, we'll see how that comes out for us. I'm hoping we get a harder draw a bit at the start of the year. I think, you know, coming third, that might happen anyway. You'll find that some of the tougher teams will play us. But yeah, I'm hoping that we get sort of still a good challenge early on, just to hit the ground running and go from there. Knock a few of the other teams about as well while you're doing that.
Well, that's always one of the tough things. And look, I always look at some teams which have fallen off the Richter scale a bit like Souths. A couple of years ago when they were premiership favourites, I think the year they went to Vegas, their draw was horrible. And when they got to Origin time, they played a lot of the weaker sides, but they were missing still a lot of Origin players. So it, you know, you don't win the big games because you're not quite there or whatever, and playing a lot of the bigger teams away from home, for example. Have a few injuries, you get behind the 8 ball. Then in Origin, when you're playing against sides coming down near the bottom, they got no one in Origin. You're still getting players picked in Origin. And then you've, you know, losing most of those games as well. So the draw is has such a big bearing on it. But I think Canterbury have no fear in that regard and never have. Like, I've never heard I've never heard them complain about a draw. I think if you ask Canterbury Serrata, they'd be like, we got to play some sides that were sort of at our level or debatable whether they were better or below us sort of thing. We got to compete. We fought hard for 80 minutes and we won pretty much all those matches. We banked all those points. We deserved to do that. We did well. Everybody in the team did a great job. But there was things that I saw that if we were going to be that next level, we needed to change a couple of things, or, you know, we just Yeah, and this is what it sort of pisses me off listening to some of these podcasts. Well, not necessarily podcasters on our sort of level where we're just fans, but people who have a little bit of a voice in the media or whatever, and they say, "Oh, the fella on the Buy Round podcast with Jammer, like Jammer probably loves this young fella, and good on him, but he always has a crack at the Dogs, which is good for them because it gives Jammer a chance to defend the club and whatever." But he said, "Oh, wouldn't it have been better if Sexton just stayed in the role and then they got to prove that he wasn't good enough," sort of thing? And I'm like, no. Which coach is going to sit there and say, you know what, I'm just going to let you continually play, even though you're not hitting your KPIs that I need you to hit, and I've got grave concerns that you're going to be able to do that? Which boss is going to bank their business on someone they don't have 100% belief in? You know, like, yeah, like why would he just let Toby Sexton, you know, play if he didn't believe that Toby was the best fella for the job? Like, I just don't get that sentiment. It was like people saying, "Oh, yeah, go play this kid in New South Wales Cup." Well, if they think that he, you know, it wasn't Galvin coming to the club and everyone getting on their hands and knees and praying to him like a lot of fans and media try to make out, like he's some spoiled little brat. The coach sat there and said, after watching him do what he did and assessing him and speaking to the leadership group, said, "We're going to back this kid in. We're bringing him in now." You know, we didn't win the comp. Okay, we lost 2 semi-finals against the 2 most dominant teams of the last decade. Okay, so what? Well done, boys. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what got me onto that, but I've gone on a bit of a tangent.
It's all right. Thanks, Rhett, for your comments. We'll keep going all the way 360, mate.
That's it, bro. All things 360.
That's it.
You can see in the background, guys, we've got the website on there. So you can it takes you to the Bulldogs website, which I think is important to promote the Bulldogs wherever I can. Takes you to all the Zero Tackle articles that I've written. If you haven't read them, give them a read, give them a comment. Whether you agree or disagree, doesn't matter. But see, these are all the ones that I've written. I've done about 10 on there so far, and most of them are also on the page as well. We've also got Buzz 360, which is always good, and plenty of other stuff. The countdown's there. But I'll tell you about, I just want to just quickly take a break here and say this countdown that Gas is doing, he's actually going to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs history page, which I've also got on the website. So you can go and learn about player 131, Alan Rice, plus just some interesting little stats. Steve Gearin, 131 games for the Dogs in 2 stints. In our 131st match, the Dragons beat us 16-11 in front of a crowd of 4,900. So every day it's a countdown and we're learning about the history of the club. But I've also got the history websites here, which you can go straight there. So this is where you're getting your stuff from, Gas?
Yep, a few different places, including these, yep.
So we can go to Surname B. It's got Benny Barber. Big write-up on Benny and all of his stats. Like, it's awesome. If you want to know anything, a lot of really good effort put into this. Is Galvin on there yet?
Sure, it will be.
Oh, yeah, he's the first one on G's. I haven't written much about him yet, but I'm sure they will. And the stats are pretty, just basic sort of stuff. But there you go. And then we've also got the Bulldogs.com, which have got their own history website, a heap of videos on there and stuff, which is fantastic. So you can get on there and get lost for ages.
Let's. I think we should tackle the elephant in the room, mate, while we can, and have a chat about the logo.
Let's do it.
If you want to bring that up, I think a few people might have. I think we had a question earlier, which we can come back to now. There's been obviously a lot of opinion about the new logo because they've gone for something different against what we've all been used to, I guess. So if you look at the ones we've had, there's been a consistent feel and they've just evolved into one to the other. This one's been a bit of a sudden change, different bulldog, a different look, looking straight at you, etc. Doesn't have the Bulldogs around it. It's just got the CB. They'll tell you that it was designed by such and such person and they took this time and did what they did and it wasn't just a pure AI and it fit into their sort of shape and everything. I mean, I've been trying it out for size. I've had it on my screensaver since literally the first few minutes just to keep it, see how it looks on there. It's growing on me, so I've got no issues. If you haven't seen it, I'll show you. Like, it's just on there. That's what you get when it zooms in a bit. But it's one of those things. I think there's going to be a time period with it. A lot of people are talking about boycotting merchandise or not liking it. Others are loving it. It's you're going to have, like everything in life, you've got to have opinions. Everyone's going to have a different feel for it. The longer you see something, the more you'll appreciate it or not like it or like it, whatever it might be. Within a few days, I've already started liking it more and more the more I see it. But I've always been one to just, embrace what's there and make it happen and move on with it. But if it turns into something that people are not buying the same merch level because of the logo and all these things, I'm sure the Bulldogs will look at it and say, okay, we tried something different. We tried to modernize it. We tried to Americanize it. We tried to call it whatever you like to put that focal point on the Bulldog. And it didn't work, then I'll move on. But if everyone starts to like it and it starts to work, to be honest with you, it's not going to win or lose games for us. So it's a logo. Yes, we're all supporting it. We're embracing it. But, we have to still be aware of sort of all the efforts that they've done in the background. It's not just something that Gus wanted to do. I'm sure there's a whole lot of people involved and stuff to get to that level. So, and once they come up with the new jersey for next year, we'll see how it looks with that jersey, and then we'll go from there. I'm sure a lot of you will want to have the latest and greatest jersey. Whether you're in Vegas or whether you're back for local games. So it's you'll eventually jump on board. But it's not the first logo change we've had, and I'm sure it won't be the last. So either way, get behind it or just support what's there and until it's not there, I guess, if it's not going to be there. What do you think, Mick?
Yeah, pretty much the same as all that. It's like when I saw it, I thought, this is going to cost us merch sales. That's all I sort of thought about. It's a good-looking Bulldog. I thought it was AI because, and I'm not trying to be negative to the people who put hard work to create this but you use some AI or whatever, whether it be Gemini or Copilot, the ones you get with your Google and that, and you say, can I have this, that, and the other, and it comes up with a Bulldog like that. I nearly had the same looking thing ages ago, but every layer of what they've done is based on tying the past to the future, whether we can see it or not. And as Gaz said, if people don't like the look or the feel of it, and the merch sales go down, they will probably revert to something else in a couple of years. But we're going to Vegas, so merch sales will be high for that. I think they sold out maybe 3 runs of jerseys, or more last year. Like, it was a record year for merch sales, I'm pretty sure. So I think next year we'll sell a lot of merch with the Bulldog on it. But I think it'll be over a couple of years whether fans will grow to like it or not. But it's not just this is what people need to understand. And this is what happens with a lot of the 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds and older. They think that no one really likes change. It's always hard for change for most people anyway. We get used to what we're doing. And the whole not seeing Canterbury Bankstown words on there, I think, annoys a lot of the people, because that sort of is the name Canterbury Bankstown, even though there's people who have gone for the Bulldogs their entire life, generations of Bulldog supporters, but have never lived there, right? But still share that connection with the people who are born and bred from the area. That name is still part of the Bulldog as well. Like, it's not just the Bulldog, it's the name. Whereas in a lot of when you're talking about marketing and stuff, Australia is always heavily influenced by American marketing. It has been for decades, and it doesn't really go the other way where they're influenced by us. We're always influenced by them. Most countries are. And it's all about the emblem. It's why the Tigers went that way. It's why the Seagulls have went that way. It's, you've got the Dolphin. They didn't call themselves Redcliffe. They're just the Dolphins. The Bulldogs were actually looking at this decades ago, when they went to go to the Sydney Bulldogs. Same reason the Roosters went to the Sydney Roosters. They wanted to expand their base. And seeing Sydney next to the Bulldogs visually just didn't sit right. You know what I mean? But seeing Canterbury Bankstown, people love it. And I think last year's logo was probably loved by old and young folk alike. I think everybody loved it. It's like they got it right. But they always had this plan to evolve into this new one, and they probably want to expand their base. And if they get new youngsters that start going for the Bulldogs because they love the Bulldog, and they grow their base, and they do their research, and they can see that demographic Australia-wide is getting, they're selling more and more memberships to people who live outside of Sydney and that sort of stuff. That is what's going to influence whether this stays or goes, if that makes sense. Yep. They're not just going to rely on the people who have been there from the start, sort of thing. You've got to continue to grow your brand. And if that means changing a logo, which does that, so be it. I really, at the end of the day, when they go out there and start cracking heads and win and get big games of rugby league, no one's going to give a shit. They're not. It's all this petition bullshit, and there's some people I really like and love and respect who have signed those petitions. No disrespect. But to me, it's like, if you're going to sign a petition, go do something worthwhile. Not on a friggin' logo, for God's sake. It's like, seriously, there's worse things to sign, better things to sign petitions for, but do what you want to do, but just don't send me the invite, please. Because I won't be signing a petition, even though I prefer the old logo, 100% prefer it. But to me, it's only if it affects the club sales-wise and merch-wise and whatever else, the club will know what to do. All right. We covered that, Gas?
Yep, all good, mate.
Dreg, would love to see more of Tracy's ball playing the red zone like he showcased in the finals. And Dreg's on board. He's got the new bulldog. Oh, he's got the bulldog with the teeth in it. A couple of people did some alterations. Well, that does look more aggressive. And, I think they should do that themselves. Like, you know how you get on board, get people on board, you do some competitions, create your best bulldog and have people vote on a few of them or something like that. That's what I would do. But anyway.
You can see how you've got the change. It keeps evolving all the time. You've got to keep moving with the times.
Is that your badges?
Yeah, so from when they started all the way through, like until that last one that they had there. So you just got to keep moving with the times. Some people love that change with the V, and others.
I hated that one.
I still like this original one that I love. I wore that for the coin toss I did at one of the games last year. So, and this is the traditional one everyone sort of grew up for us. But yeah, I mean, and this is the one they sort of evolved into the new one this year. So there's always different opinions, and everyone's going to have their mixed feelings. But it is what it is. That's it.
That's it, bro. Timmy Gray. Back to you, Drag. Yeah, look, Tracy, he's a class player, man. And he was starting to hit his form back at the semis. Like, it all comes down to fitness for that fullback role. If you're a bit below, you need those games to get your fitness right. And when he got his fitness back close to being his best, he played a lot better with and without the ball. Timmy says, on Bula to spot him. Good point, Timmy. 4 tries. He struggled on the try line, stopping a try being scored by the Cook Islands. That's an area Bula needs to continue to build on. 100%. And we were talking about Benny Barber earlier. It was a 4-year progression for him to become our full-time fullback and then Daly M winner. They managed him on his second season. He had that issue with Jamal Idris at the pub or whatever. And then he didn't play first grade again for the rest of the year. Then he played about 20 games the next year. And then he won the Daly M. So you've got to progress these guys. And what did he work on that preseason before he won the Daly M? His defense. 100%.
Yeah. And he spoke about it a lot.
You can read this one out, buddy.
Aki saying, imagine AI chooses Melbourne Predators Broncos to start the year. Well, that would be good for us. Bring it on. We like you said, we can't be afraid of whatever comes. The big advantage we had on the draw this year, we were the least travelled team in the NRL, which was the first thing that the first thing that was highlighted, which helped us. So we were sort of the least travelled team. So that's kept us kind of, helped us in what we had to do. But whatever it is, everyone's going to deal with it. You still got to play all the rounds, and we come back from Vegas, we have a week off, and then we start again in round 3.
That's it.
So, yep.
Dreg, everyone will get used to the logo. Eventually, just need some good wins attached to it, and we'll be fine. That's it. Adrian, welcome, buddy. Long-time contributor to All Things Bulldogs podcast with comments. And put your comments on the podcast afterwards, guys. Like it, comment on it. Tell us stuff about it. You just don't like something with the eyes. Well, it's all in the eyes, guys.
You look like a bulldog, though.
What's the model face?
Oh, my God.
Smile. Eyes up high. Don't smile.
Cheese.
All right. Oh, welcome, Jamie. You didn't pay for your comment, brother. I wasn't on board at first, and I saw next to the old logo, and it makes old ones look like they are on the spectrum. Oh, my daughter's on the spectrum, brother, but I don't take offense. I get what you mean. And look, I think what we've come accustomed to is that there's a lot less detail in the older pictures, right? Sometimes I think less detail is more, though. And I've always looked at that Bulldog as, I don't know, I just love the old Bulldog. He's just loyal. He looks like he's our friend. I find he's still looking, you know, he's staunch. And he just gets to work. I just love him. But the new one, I'm sure they can take this fella pretty far. There's lots they can do with him. And, yeah, you know, it's just a logo at the end of the day. That's it, Michael. That's it. Timmy says it'll take fans to adjust to the logo, but definitely feel it's more intimidating with the Bulldogs' eyes. Timmy agrees with you there, Gas. Loves the Berries logo. Yeah, it's all good, bro. So's me cousin and me other cousin's nephew and 3 of my nephews. It's so good these days, though, because they teach parents a lot on how to manage it. And you would hardly know with a lot of kids these days once with all the development they get, you know, speech therapy and all that sort of stuff. You know, heaps of, and sort of teaching us how to communicate better really helps bring them on. And the extra support they get at school. And, yeah, we've come a long way with autism and spectrum. So hopefully, yeah, it depends what level they are on as well. So hopefully your son's doing well. All I would say is I wouldn't change my cousins or my daughter or anyone. I think it's absolutely. They say it's the next step of evolution. So there you go. Michael says, I would have loved to versus Melbourne round 1, break the curse of them winning every round 1. That's a good point. It's a very good point. Very, very good point. Somehow I don't know. I don't know if I want to play, as Aki said, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Penrith round 1 to 3, you know, or 2 to 4. Because
don't argue with AI. You don't argue with AI, mate. We don't know what that's going to do. So it's going to be interesting because look, even Melbourne, for example, when do we play them next? We haven't played them in Sydney for a while. I think we played them in Belmore a few years ago, but we haven't played them in Sydney much. It's always in Melbourne. Yeah, it's always in Melbourne. So
bullshit.
Let's see if AI can correct that potentially. Do you know what I mean? Especially now that we're a top 4 team based on this year. So see if that corrects itself. But yeah, they're going to have to load a lot of things into the algorithm before they do that. See what spits out.
Going back to what Aki said, I wouldn't mind. Look, I don't really want to play those 3 teams to start. I know it's imagine if AI comes up with that, but I'm just putting it out there that whilst it's a great challenge and we shouldn't be scared of it, we're still not going to get any leeway. If we play those 3 teams and lose all 3 games, the amount of pressure it's going to put on some of our young fellas, it's just going to... the media will be wanting this. It'll be such a big story. I'm actually expecting it. I'm expecting that we'll play.
We've got Dragons obviously in Vegas, so we try to get that under our belt. And then we've got Rabbitohs in usually round 4, usually for the Easter. So it's
I think they'll be the 2 easiest games we get in the first 8 rounds.
Yeah, it'll be the 2 games in between that just to see what they end up doing in those games for us. So, because obviously Vegas will start a week early, and then when everyone's having their round 1, we'll be having the bye, and then we start again in round 2. So it's those few weeks to see how that goes for us.
I think we'll get Sharks. I think we'll get Roosters. I think we'll get I just got a feeling we're going to get – I think we'll get at least – in the first 8 rounds, I think we'll get at least 5 top 8 sides from this year. That's what I've just got a feeling we're going to get. And I don't mind if it's sort of spread out, but if it's, I'm a bit worried, always worried. Like what I'm expecting is, away games will be against teams we should beat or could beat, and home games will be against the toughest opposition, which is always it's probably easier to beat them at home, but it's always a bigger challenge. You know what I mean? How about the Rock with one eyebrow raised for the logo?
I think the biggest challenge we're going to have next year is when we start winning games once and putting teams away. That's when we'll start to see the evolution if our team is really improving. Like this year we had 15 wins, but like we've discussed before, a lot of them we had to win them twice or 3 times. But if we start putting some of those teams away comfortably and winning those games and being that team, that's when I start to believe that we're progressing in the right direction through the season. Yeah. So when that happens in the year, we're not sure, but once we start to see that, that's when because if you start winning those games easier, you won't have to put that effort. You won't be killing yourself all the way through the year. You can balance yourselves out around it. So, but that'll be interesting to see how that goes through the season.
Just to catch up on these last few, Andy says, I like the new logo. I think it'll appeal to a newer, younger generation, increasing our fan base. And all our logos stay forever anyways. That's right. Great point, Andy. Thank you. Last time we played Melbourne in Sydney was round 5, 2021. We scored our first points that year since round 1 after we were scoreless for 3 rounds. Wow. Thank you, Michael. Timmy says he'd prefer to travel to Canberra earlier in the season when it's a bit warmer. Jamie, nice shout out. 100% single dad. How hard to get, but he's the happiest kid ever. He says you put the old logo one. It does in the eyes the most, especially the 2004 one with the V. There you go. Don't get me wrong, I love the old ones, but the new one grew on me quick just from sitting them side by side and looking at them for a day. And Jamie's proudly got the new logo there. There you go. They're still all here, aren't they, Gas? You've still got...
Yeah.
You'll need to add to your collection, brother.
That's right.
You'll get the new badge soon.
Yep.
All right. Now, there's a shout out I wanted to do for John Corey.
Yes. Big achievement.
Yeah, so he was honoured with Hall of Fame for the Referees Association. Did I talk about that last week?
Not enough. If we did mention it, wasn't a lot.
All right. Here we go. I'll get this one up for us. Did it. It's coming up. right. So he's been honoured with life membership for service to the Referees Association. And it's really important, this, like referees, people, we do take them for granted. It's a really hard thing to do. They cop a lot of abuse coming through the ranks. And John Curry's been at the forefront supporting, he's done a fantastic job, multiple roles. He was a team manager in the Junior Rugby League between 82 and 2017. Deputy chair at the moment, was the chairman, as we know, during a tough period. Long-serving director of the league club as well, which is a separate entity. And Curry was one of the big architects of getting that subsidised registrations for young kids to be able to play rugby league for a lot cheaper. But what we didn't know, that I didn't know, is when I had a chat to John and got his thoughts on when he won and stuff like that, when he got recognised. But Andrew G, the referee, he's sort of the only one that's come out of our district who's gone on to referee a grand final and stuff. So he's actually a Bulldog. So a lot of people were calling him a Panther, but he's actually come from the Bulldogs pathway systems in the referees. So hopefully he'll be good for us. But no, yeah, so we don't think about the referee stuff too much. Or we do. We talk about them a lot, especially when we lose and whatever else. But to actually, when you think about it, like the effort that goes into actually recruit referees, train them up, and have them control one of the most intense sports and number one watch sports in the country, the most number one watch sport in the country, is a pretty big deal. And so John Curry deserves a lot of congratulations for the ongoing support that he's brought with the Referees Association. And that's why he received that honour. So well done to him.
Well done, John.
What's some other things we can talk about? So Jacob Preston's not playing for Australia.
Not yet. So we'll see how they go week one, first match. We'll see how that goes. But they're not yet. But I'm sure he's gaining a lot of valuable experience in camp. Something that he can bring back with his game. Whatever happens, I'm sure he's getting a lot of experience being around those kind of players as well, which is really good. And he actually looks really good in those colours. He's very suited to that. It looks really good. So very exciting for him.
It's great recognition. And I think if there's any injury on that edge, or if Australia wins the first two games, I think he'll definitely come in for the third. But look, Australian jerseys are earned. They're not given away. But I found that a lot of the time, due to the fact we often play sides which sort of, we play a lot of sides, and some sides, we're going to win. Like, they're not going to beat us. Like, that's where they would give a game to Jacob Preston. But if he was picked ahead of Crichton or Hudson Young, like, Australia's not going to be let down at all. In fact, I think they get enhanced because I just think he doesn't hardly gives away penalties. He just works his ass off. He just does everything. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Loved him from the first time we saw him. And, I sat there in the preseason when he got there and I said, he's going to have to wait in line, you know what I mean? He's going to have to get ahead of Jackson Torpenay and all these players. And we've got Davey, so he's going to be ahead of him. Like, I thought he's going to spend 6 months in Cup and then get his breakthrough, and then we'll see what this kid's got. But he went past him in the preseason. And I've said it a few times on this podcast. I just love the fact that we have brought in players into our squad, which we've gone, this kid, he comes in, he doesn't leave. And there's not enough. There hasn't been that sort of momentum built in our squad for a long time, where players that we don't really know much about, to be frank, the majority of people don't know much about, all of a sudden become household names for Canterbury supporters. And some of these guys are on minimum contracts, are nowhere near Origin selection. They're considered, 15th, 16th, top 20 in their position maybe. And Bulldogs fans are like, nah, we don't want those guys. We want this kid, And I felt when Max King from day one for the Bulldogs did that for us. Jacob Carraz, obviously. Avarillo, the first time he ever come on. I know he's gone now. We love Curtis Moran when Mick Potter brought him into the fold. Bailey Haywood, Harry Hayes. It's just been so good. Bronson Cherry, I know we knew a lot about him, but the fact he come back so quickly and just when he got into the side, it's like, well, we're not dropping him now.
Yep.
And Critter's probably been bigger for us than we thought as well. So, I just really hope we get Satili Tupanua's first game against the Dragons. Like, I don't think a lot of people expected that. You know what I mean? This club's recruitment, everyone on the outside and many fans hung so much shit on this club's recruitment and retention. But there's players that they've hired, majority of them have been fantastic. So we just got to keep trusting. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Mate, I'll put that'll be going to me daughter, by the way, as you know. But thank you, matey. Much appreciated. Don't let Jamie be the only one. Whoever contributes the most between now and Christmas will get a free copy of the Rugby League coach book. So there you go.
Can you get it
Jamie,
signed?
I think he's on $7. So there's a couple of people ahead of him.
Can you get the book signed?
I'll get it signed. I'll sign
it.
Yeah. I'm worth a bit. I've got my own website now, mate.
That's it.
Just show his Buzz 360. This was the latest episode, just for shits and giggles. Buzz has got some of his, I had to sort of mix it up a little bit. He's got some of his favourite people on this is his little lair where he hangs out. He's got Bill Cosby, OJ Simpson. It's supposed to be Woody Allen, but it looks like Donald Trump to me. He's got a shirtless pic of Nico up on the wall. And he's got the spew bucket, so that must be Madge Maguire in there. And he's got Cooper Cronk. He's got Jammer over here, the Jammer doll. And there's his Gus Voodoo doll. So, and it says, Phil Gould is in hospital. And then Mick Chamis gives him a ring. And then Chamis talks him out of putting that last fatal pin into Gus. So there you go. Bit too soon. And that's Braithen Astor and Lockie Elias in Laundy's pub. And, Buzz is in the tree taking a photo. Something's going on down there. So,
What did you think of the signing today with the Jonah Pezzett?
I've lost a bit of respect for Jason Riles if he's only accepted a 1-year deal for Jonah Pezzett to then go to the Broncos.
That was a very interesting one, yeah. I haven't seen that happen too often.
Well, it just goes against all the principles. Doesn't it?
I agree. I was very surprised by that move, like you said, especially with I know Rolsey knows the kid and he was with him in the Melbourne system, but it still was a very interesting one. I don't know what he thinks he's going to gain doing that. Whatever you start to build up, it stops, it's cut short, then off he goes again. So the only time I've seen it really is when the player's been on a loan. Like, West Tigers took Harry Grant. There's a few. Okay, you can understand that when you're depending on your players who you've got, but that's a halfback in a team like that. That's a very interesting one to go that way. I know they got Moses. Not saying it's it's backup, but it's still a very interesting one to bring him there. And really, all he's going to do is probably learn from Moses and go and be a better player against them again with Brisbane. So
yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's a very strange one. Yeah.
To me, that's I don't get it. I think it's ridiculous. And look, I just want to give a little bit of a sort of just a shout out here to the media. Like, we're talking about a side which come runner up in 2022, and whether they were the second best team that year or not, it's up for. But they had been close to Penrith a number of times in matches, beat them in the regular season, and have definitely got the best or second best halfback in the comp in Mitchell Moses, who's had too many injuries for that side to be consistent after that. They've still had Junior Polo, they had Guff, they had all these players in their side now. And they were falling off a cliff, and they sort of went backwards when they let go of Reid Marnie. And then they bought that Josh Hodgson from the Raiders on big money, like on 800 fucking grand. That's what didn't make sense about Parramatta, is they paid 800 for Josh Hodgson from the Raiders, the Pommy, but they weren't prepared to give Reid Marnie $550,000 to stay at Para, which he would have done. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And they sort of deserve what they fucking got in the end. Jason Rolls comes into that club, which still isn't broken. Like, as far as the depth of their squad, it was pretty good. Now, he let go of Gutherson, which I think was a good move. And then you got players like Sean Lane retiring. You've got bunch of forwards that were on some pretty good coin that they let go. And then they brought in Iongi, who they were saying was going to be better than Dylan Edwards in the long run. Like, he's that good. So that was a good buy, and he's going to be on big money soon. They had Dylan Brown there, who showed on the weekend he's still pretty fucking good. And this is where I see the hypocrisy in it all, right, is that they kept Dylan Brown out of this team so Dean Hawkins could get a few more matches, which was great for him. And he got better. He got better and better. He's been a reserve grader for years, an elite reserve grader that's done all right when he's had an opportunity at Souths and whatever else. And he's got better and better. And they gave Joash Papali an extension based on what he was able to do when he got into that side. So they gave these opportunities to guys and kept Dylan Brown on the bench. Now, it wasn't because Brown was playing shit. It was because they were looking to the future. And now they go and sign Peze for 1 year. What's that tell these kids? If they sign Peze for 4 or 5 years, it's like, yeah, well, we've got him, and we've got, Hawkins, and I don't know if Hawkins is still there or not, but they've got Joash in the background there who can keep pushing for a spot. And if there's an injury to Moses or he's playing Origin, Peze can move to 7 without an issue. Joash can come back in at 6. Like, it's a genuine pathway depth. But to sign Peze for 1 year, look, what the fuck? That just, to me, I just don't get it. Jason Riles was establishing him. He got so much positive press because he made some of these decisions. What they haven't taken into account, though, is that they still had a huge base of talent at Parramatta and a lot of depth. And when Moses gets into that side, when they've got their number one conductor in that side, they're very hard to beat. Add Josh Adokar into the wing as well. Will Penasini. Like, these aren't players from on small money, small value players. These are high quality players in this side. And yet he basically they treated Riles like they made the finals and competed to win the comp, in my opinion. But with, Serrato and the Bulldogs, it was like, oh, our season was shit in the end and wasn't worth it. It was all for nothing, sort of thing. And then for him to sign, he should have said, if you're not coming, if you don't believe in Parramatta, like the fact that Braithen Astor got this deal done, obviously he's got a good relationship with Jason Riles, potentially because he's got Cameron Munster and he's had Peze was at Melbourne with Jason Riles. Like, I can understand that point of view, but just to give the kid a position in that top 30 for 12 months, I suppose in a way it's like lending him for 12 months. When they do a player swap like the Storm did with Harry Grant and the Tigers and that, if you look at it that way, probably, but I can't. He's left the Storm to say, thanks for coming now, go to Parramatta, go to Brisbane Broncos, have a great time, walk into the elite club in Brisbane. I hope he ends up being, who was the guy who went, was it Brody? I hope it ends up being like Brody Croft up there.
Brody Croft. Mm.
Hope it ends up like that. And he's a good he's won the Man of Steel twice or something since going over to England.
Yep, he's been a revelation over there. But some players are better suited to that game over there and unfortunately not the NRL.
That's it, mate. Different game.
Yep.
How do we think Hayes will go up 13? What's your thoughts?
Well, it depends on what minutes he would get if he was going to be a 13, but I'm not so sure that his ball playing would be good enough for a 13. I know it's not bad. I know it's improved. I mean, I've seen him throw a pass. He's pretty good, but you wouldn't, if you had to put him in there, he wouldn't be out of place. But he's still a lot of development left in that, and maybe he's just slightly too big for that role. Maybe, who knows? But I wouldn't say no to it. I think there's a lot of options that would be ahead of him first year.
I think he's about 102 to 104 kgs. He's probably the right size. About 6'1", 6'2". And he was a centre before. He's always sort of played on the edge, but he's come in and played middle. Can he give space to his outside backs? Can he find his front? I don't know. Honestly, he's such a good footballer. He's actually still underrated. I'm wondering where Scotty Warren is to come in and who loves Harry Hayes, his number one fan. I've actually started putting an image together. An image together of Harry Hayes to get on my wall. Do a canvas. I love Harry. Timmy, good evening, Peter. Always enjoy seeing you on here, brother. Where's Peter?
He hasn't commented.
I haven't even seen him on here. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Peter Volandis? I love the Buzz 360 comics. Hilarious. They are hilarious. There'll be a lot more to come. Josh will get less minutes in first grade now. Well, potentially. Peze might break his leg. Yeah, Pete isn't even on here. When did he say hello? Is he somewhere else, Timmy? Me mate Pete, I want him on here, but he's not here. Timmy says he noticed Dean Hawkins and Joash are free agents. Yeah. Yeah, Bryce, another one. Bryce has gone to that St Mary's team in what's it bloody called? Ron Massey. The place where they all ex-Penrith players go to die.
Yeah, and it was also the other player that they got from the Roosters too. That was that fell out of favour with them as well this year.
I think they had Bergman. Who'd they get from the Roosters?
A couple of years, they got him 2 years ago, I think.
Oh, Michael Jennings.
No. It was in the second row as well. I forget his name, but there was a player that they got up there as well that didn't. He fell out of favour and they left him in reserve grade. Then they didn't put him back in again.
Oh, okay. I can't remember.
He was a pretty good player. Oh, it'll come to me. Don't worry.
It's going to eat at me now. All right, so what's coming up, guys? There'll be some more articles. So we're going to look at I've got another top 5 coming up. 5 rookies set to debut in 2026. So we'll talk about that next week. That'll probably come out on Zero Tackle. Although he might want to run that himself. They like doing their top 5 stuff. But if not, I'll just run it on my site. You'll see it on the site in a couple of days. We'll do our top 5 rookies that I expect to debut next year. Obviously, we know a couple of them already, but there's a few there. We'll also
Ryan Madison.
Ryan, that's right. He went there too.
Yeah, he fell out of favour and then didn't get to start. He was playing New South Wales Cup. Yeah, as well. Yeah, but he fell out of favour. But he was signed on big money too.
Yeah, well, he was the player who took the 3 weeks off instead of paying the fine.
Correct.
Like once you do that, you're just gone.
Yeah.
Once you do that. You got anything else for us there, mate? Anything else to talk about?
No, just one thing to think about for the next few weeks is I think as a team, the Bulldogs, I think we need to start thinking about how we can score some more points from our side of halfway. I think without the Fox, we've lost that ability. We haven't got that same speed and creativity sometimes. Like Burton used to play some trick plays and things like that for the Fox. But I think to evolve, I think we're going to need to be dangerous all across the park and be ready to, make some breaks around the halfway line and things like that. Kind of like, Presto the other day with Galvin against Penrith. Something we need to do more of that. We can't just rely on being the team inside the red zone because a lot of teams can defend the red zone now. We need to be having some good options outside as well and putting some plays on. And maybe with Adam O'Brien there, things will do a different approach, some different ideas. Let's see how that goes for our attack. I'm hoping that'll help us out and give us a few different scenarios that we could potentially play with and train with in the off-season. So, but I think as a team, for us to evolve, I think that's one of the things we lacked this year. We did very well to win the games we did, but I think you're always, like I said to you before, the old Japanese proverb, Kaizen, continuous improvement. We're always going to look to improve all the time. How do we keep getting better? And I think that's one of the areas where I think we have a bit of a disadvantage, not having that X factor speed, etc., where we can make those breaks. If you remember 2024, we had that big game against Broncos in Suncorp where we were scoring points and doing stuff. That kind of outside the box razzle-dazzle, then we sort of put it away again for the rest of the season. That's the kind of game that sometimes they need to have available to them, but not just once every so often, be able to play like that when they want as well. So
it's actually a good point you brought up, and I think I'll finish off having a little chat on that because you sparked my mind. I was actually watching late last night. I actually watched that Broncos game, and I actually went and watched the Broncos just sort of like just highlights, some of their mini matches and stuff. on the lead up from when that run to the grand final, and I'll tell you why they're able to play. And this Penrith I watched a few Penrith games as well. The reason they're able to be so dangerous is because they will throw at least 3 shapes at you, sort of from whenever they've sort of got, when they're starting sets from like 20 or 30 meters out, they have that ability to run plays and to do things. And when they're under sufferance, they're really good at setting up for those 40-20 kicks too. Really good at looking under the pump and then also being able to adjust on the run. So what I'm talking about is Canterbury, because we don't knock down that door with our big boys enough. And look, I always defend during the season. I'm always like, yep, we've got the little guys of what we've got. We play with what we've got the best way possible. And this is why we do things in a certain way, grind it out. But if we want to be able to throw more attacking shapes in a set more consistently, having those big boys do a couple of really strong runs and able to generate some momentum through the ruck is what enables that to happen. If you're playing off the back foot, if you're not getting that ascendancy through the middle enough, you can't throw those shapes the same way. And when we played Brisbane, I felt that the forwards went out there. We were missing a lot of players. Critter didn't play. And everyone out there with a big point to prove. And we ran harder and we tackled harder. And we're able to go left to right seamlessly because, and I think we're averaging probably, 2 to 3 genuine sort of balls. And the big thing that happens, and I see this with the Roosters game as well, this is why they're always an attacking threat, is because when their big boys are hard to handle in the middle, what happens is that teams compress to get more numbers there to be able to deal with it. And once teams start to get fatigued but continue to do that, that's when they pull them apart on the edge and they go from left to right, back to left again, probably 3 or 4 times in a set because the team is sort of been, okay, they've been smashing us through the middle. They've kept going through the middle. We've struggled to deal with it. We're getting tired. They're winning field position. And then you have a player rush out of the line from out wide and then expose everybody. Then they've got a 1 or a 2-man overlap. And that's what these good sides do because they've got such tough, aggressive middles. And when those middles are on their game and they're all fit, it just opens their attack up real well, which is why the game's always been based on having dominant middles. Like I get it. I always understand that. I know Canterbury can work hard and keep playing it and still win those matches if we have our players fit and we compete and we're nearly winning those games. We're just falling short. Add in a couple of big boppers and you'll see that we will evolve that attack because they will get to play on the front foot a little bit more. Teams will want to get more players condensed around our forwards to try and stop them, which is going to open up space on the outside for us to then attack. And that's pretty much how it happens for the good sides. It comes down to the fact when you've got elite forwards and seem to just have elite players in every position under the salary cap somehow, then you're able to do what you want to do. So, yeah. And a player like Reece Walsh, he's got that Alan Langer vibe about him. It's like, tackle him. Stop letting him run. Why are you hanging off him? Why aren't you just tackling him? Just tackle him. And then they pull your pants down.
Yep.
That's why. Don't you remember those days? Tackle Langer. The next minute you focus too hard on Langer and Kevy Walters just slices through this little chubby bloke at number 6 just slices through like, and you're like, oh my God. Don't know about Jason Taylor. The talk was that he's just going to move to another role, but I was also going to.
There's an answer two down if you want to look at that.
G'day, Peter.
So that's in regards to JT, I think.
Welcome, Peter. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, look, it makes, if you're going to make a rumour up, which I've heard a couple as well, that's just an easy one to make up because he coached North Sydney for years, and he only wants to be an assistant. He'll go join the current current Samoa coach. I think is over there as an assistant as well, Gardner. So that would be 2 pretty good assistants for Mal Meninga to have. Sam Hughes. So there's a story that's come out which said that Sam Hughes is knocked back going to the London Broncos.
Yep.
Just to give you an idea about how player managers and media works, that'd be a player manager driven article, which sort of speaks to the fan base, speaks to the club. Sam wants to play for the Bulldogs, you know, and he's not interested in going to the London Broncos, who might have knocked on his door, but we'll never know. But I think Sam has a big opportunity this year, and hopefully he goes to another level as well. If these players all go to their potential, it's good signs for the Bulldogs. Yeah, we need to be more dominant, and having Leo Thompson's going to help in that area, and we're developing forwards that'll be able to do that. And it takes time, as you see. It takes managing their minutes over 12 months, and then over a couple of pre-seasons, getting them ready, getting them seasoned, getting them tasting great, and then they go out there and deliver. But I think when it comes to do we need more? If you've got 2 front rowers, you think about Carrigan and Huss, they can play 70 minutes, 80 minutes when they need to, but 60 to 70 most games of the year is what they expect to play, those 2. If you've got 2 forwards who can contribute 55 to 60 minutes every single game and start, or let's even just say 20 games a year, when they're both on the field, you're in a much better position to play at an elite level. And yeah, Leo brings that to us. And when you go look at Newcastle, how many times did him, Safidi, Frizzell, Lucas, and how often did they have their best forward pack on the field? Ever. Not too often. And when they did, it was like one of them would break down and get injured. Jacob would, or Daniel would, get injured, and then Leo would get injured or whatever, Just when they all played, they were pretty dominant. James says, how could they hire Adrian as an attacking coach after the crap attack Knights had last year? Good question, James. I'll answer that before we go. If you go look at his record as an attacking coach for the Storm and for the Roosters, some people work better in that capacity where they don't have to own every decision, that they don't lose as much sleep at night. They can still work hard. They get to usually have a much better relationship with the players as well. And they get to focus on one niche part of what they're doing. So their focus is a lot more narrower. And when you've got a narrower focus for some coaches, they're able to deliver outstanding results in that capacity. So people that's what's annoying though, is that, we have this media now which talks about whether they're the attacking coach or the defensive coach. Just call them, the club they should just say they're our assistant coach and just be done with it. And you look at Newcastle defensively, they were pretty good. Eventually when you don't score and you keep dropping the ball, you're going to concede points late in games, which is what they did. And then when they fell off the Richter scale at the end, they really fell off. But they're a side that's made finals 4 of the last 6 years or whatever. And although they were set up pretty well, they had a big development towards that before he came in. I feel that he did pretty good at different times. And that in 2023, I felt they were smoking, they were humming. And they could have, if they'd had a better start to the year and finished top 4, I think they could have maybe made a grand final. But that's, so you don't forget how to coach. I think he makes us he's a first grade coach who still wants to coach, and he's going to be fired up. He's going to do well. He's going to work hard. I think it's a good appointment, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Who would you say was his integral player that he had to have on the field for majority of the year to succeed? Like last year, this Ponga, and he only played 13 games. So, and for James, I always remember back when his team was humming, they beat us 66-0. Whatever team we had on the park, they still beat us. So it's not like he forgot how to coach, and he might have had a bad season, but his actual focus as well this year, if you notice the first, 15 rounds, he was one of the top defensive teams. He was trying to focus more on the defense as well. But, I like exactly like Michael said. I think sometimes as a combination in a team, having those assistant coaches, and that's what he is, an assistant coach now, having that variety there where they can have different focuses, that's what's going to be better for us. So, the results are, subjective based on what you've got out there and what your team is. So the proof will be in the pudding soon. We'll soon find out the next season.
Thing is, just say we're doing whether we improve or don't improve, people somehow start talking about the assistant coaches. It's like, let's just go back to not worrying about who the assistant coaches are. It's like, who cares?
Silent partners.
They're just part of the. I just say the coaching team all the time when I talk about decisions that are made. Yeah. And when people are going to sit there and judge decisions, I'm like, well, this Serrato's got the final say in the first grade side 99.9% of the time. But if you think they're not taking consultation on the juniors, there's a lot of people going about our juniors still, and I say sometimes it's one drop ball, sometimes it's one missed moment, sometimes it's one injury. That's how cutthroat it is for a kid to sometimes get through. If we're letting quality kids go that we believe are quality, to me, that's always a positive sign. Doesn't always look that way, but it is if when you've only got 33 to 40% of the talent pool in numbers, as some of our, as the Broncos and the Panthers, for example, who have on any given year they have between 11 and 13,000 juniors each. We have like 3, 2.5, sometimes 3.5, and then it goes up to about 4.5 with our extended regionals. When that's, you have to bring new talent in, and it's not like Peter Moore didn't go and get new players from everywhere. He constantly did it. So yeah, for us to be good and for our juniors to succeed, it's got to be hard for them. And you know, some of them are will rue the fact that they leave our club one day. For others, it'll be, you know, we'll proven right, I guess. But it's hard. It's hard, as I said. It's always hard for the juniors to manage. Trent Barrett looked pretty happy at the end of the season. He certainly did. He's got a couple of premiership rings as a deputy assistant coach. So, and I'm sure he'll be an interim coach again one day. If you keep being an assistant, you're likely to be an interim at some point.
Yep.
I reckon that's enough for us tonight there. Yes, what
that's
do you think?
Good, mate. That's all good. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Like and subscribe if you haven't. And we'll keep going over the summer. Well, I might have to get the aircon in here soon.
Yeah, we'll have to review the first test match next week as well, mate.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Probably could have done more on the Pacific test today, but you know,
It was a good finish. It was after Tonga after they got back. Basically, Samoa got back level. They had an opportunity there, and Mariner dropped the ball with the line wide open. So they could have taken the lead. So, yeah. And then, of all people, Penrith's famous winger dropped the ball as well with the line wide open. So, you know, these things happen to even the best players. So To'o couldn't get the job done as well. So it's one of those things. Happens to the best of them. So, but the haka and the pre-game was pretty intense. It was a very good staring contest and ritual. It was very good, very well done.
Yeah, I like seeing rituals at the start of games and stuff. Huckers seem to be everywhere at the moment.
Yeah, the war cries. Yeah,
I think the what I'd like to see is our Australian people learn an Indigenous dance or something. Anyway,
all good. Thank you, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
And Michael says Bulldogs 50, Dragons nil in Vegas.
Sign it up. Lock it in.
And Timmy loves that. Right. Thanks, everyone. And just one last point. Peter says, hope Sam Hughes stays injury free. He's only played at 70% potential. And the poor kid was busted. He had about 3 injuries that he should not have been playing with towards the end of the year. So well done to him. And he needs a good preseason and a good break right now, hopefully.
Yep.
Just like we need.
Yep.
So I'll see you next Tuesday. One of my favourite words, the acronym, but I won't say it here. See you next Tuesday, and if I get time, because I've been really busy with work, I'll try and get some other content out for you guys. But check out the Bulldogs, dogfathermedia.com.au or whatever it's called. And keep supporting independent media like us. Take care, everyone. Go the Dogs.
Go the Doggies.